morning, ladies and gentlemen. We would like to invite you to sit on your table as we will commence the event shortly. morning, distinguished guests, ASEAN representatives, partners, and our colleagues from the ASEAN Secretariat and the United Nations Development Programme. Welcome to the project launch event of the ASEAN Blue Carbon and Finance Profiling. Please join me in giving a round of applause for everyone today. My name is Nabila Rahmani, and it is truly an honor to have all of you here today as we continue our journey towards fostering blue innovation and sustainable economic growth in the ASEAN region. Yesterday, we concluded a series of insightful and engaging sessions on blue carbon and finance. We extend our sincere thanks to the experts, innovators, and researchers who shared their knowledge and inspired meaningful conversations throughout the day. Today's engagement is an opportunity for us to support the project for the sustainable use of ocean and inland water resources for inclusive growth across ASEAN and Timor-Leste. Before we start, let's watch the safety demonstration video from the building management team.
Welcome to the Tribrata. Your safety is our priority. We would like to have your attention of our safety features in case of emergency. Thank you for your kindly attention.
Selamat datang di The Tribrata. Keselamatan Anda adalah prioritas kami. Kami ingin menunjukkan prosedur keamanan dan keselamatan pada saat terjadinya keadaan darurat. Terima kasih atas perhatian Anda.
The Tribrata building has 4 exit emergency doors, 1 at west side, 2 at east side, and 1 at north side, giving to assembly point.
The Tribrata building is equipped with control system in command room and monitor for 24 hours. Each room of the Tribrata is equipped with a fire extinguisher, sprinkler, smoke detector, public address system, hydrant, and alarm. The Opus Grand Ballroom has 5 exit doors. We are at main ballroom. In the event of emergency alarm, please do not panic. If you hear through the speaker, your attention please. There is an emergency in the building. Please leave the building for safety through the nearest exit. Our expert associate will guide you towards the nearest emergency exit door to assembly point. Please remember to do not panic. In case of fire, do not use elevator and please use handrail of staircase.
Terima kasih atas perhatian Anda dan selamat beraktivitas.
Thank you for your trust and enjoy your memorable day at the Tribrata.
To officially open today's session, I am delighted to invite His Excellency Mr. Satvinder Singh, Deputy Secretary General of ASEAN for ASEAN Economic Community, to deliver the opening remarks. To Mr. Satvinder Singh, you may have the floor.
Mr. Norisan, the resident representative of the UNDP in Indonesia, His Excellency Ambassador Kia, the Ambassador of Japan to ASEAN, so many of the ASEAN ambassadors here that are in the room, and of course, I know Dato Velu, the chair of the ASEAN Coordinating Task Force on Blue Economy, is also virtually joining us. I just want to acknowledge and welcome all of our VIPs today, this morning here. But ladies and gentlemen, just look around you. What a beautiful setting that the team from the UNDP has developed for all of us this morning. I mean, once again, big congratulations to you, Nori-san, to you and your team for always bringing out the most innovative settings for all of our Blue Economy meetings in the last couple of years. And I'm always amazed when I attend your events. We all need to learn from you how you do it, and you have such a great team. It's really an honor and a pleasure to be here this morning at the launch of the ASEAN Blue Carbon and Finance Profiling project, which is a very critical part of implementation for ASEAN in our Blue Economy framework. This collaborative initiative, it marks a milestone in our shared journey towards a resilient, sustainable and inclusive blue economy for our region. Let me begin by acknowledging the outstanding collaboration that has brought us here. Let me extend my sincere appreciation from all of us from the ASEAN fraternity to the UNDP Indonesia, as well as the government of Japan, and all the participating national experts and stakeholders across the region for their unwavering support and technical leadership in making this launch possible. My appreciation also goes to the ASEAN Coordinating Task Force for Blue Economy. This year it's led by the chair, Dato Velu from Kuala Lumpur. And again, the invaluable support that the task force has given to us, and of course the recognition of providing the support to this initiative as an ASEAN project has gone a long way in bringing about all the resourcing that goes into this project. The task force support and commitment also will empower the ability for our region to be able to unlock the full potential of the blue carbon as well as blue finance. And I think this is really a commendable progress in our implementation strategy for the blue economy framework. Today, as we are here, I think we are also all gathered here to also recognize the vital role of the ASEAN blue carbon ecosystems. The mangroves, the seagrasses, the coastal wetlands, they are all a critical resource for all of us in the region in tackling the climate change. These ecosystems, natural ecosystems, they store an estimated 7.5 billion metric tons of carbon globally, with Southeast Asia accounting over 60% of the world's tropical coastal blue carbon. Now, their preservation naturally is essential not only for carbon mitigation, but also for supporting biodiversity, livelihoods, and economic growth for our communities and our people. Now, these ecosystems are not just carbon sinks. They are natural infrastructure, protecting coastal communities from storm surges. They are also surging livelihoods through fisheries and preserving biodiversity. But we all know that they are all under threat. Mangroves are being lost at an alarming rate, primarily due to land conversions, aquaculture, as well as the rising sea levels. Now, without some strategic protection and financing, we risk undermining one of the most powerful natural allies in our fight against climate change. Now, in today's world, ladies and gentlemen, balancing economic growth and environmental sustainability is increasingly going to be critical, and blue economy has emerged as a vital driver of growth while preserving the preservation of water resources and marine ecosystems. ASEAN, as you know, is home to 1/3 of the world's coral reefs as well as mangroves and seagrass beds. And we definitely are well positioned and have huge responsibility to come together to be able to leverage innovative approaches to manage oceanic and freshwater resources, and to future-proof our ecosystem and to contribute to economic growth simultaneously. This is where this ABCF project, it will play a very critical role. And basically, it has twofold goals. First is basically it's aiming to have experts to be able to help develop the national blue carbon and the finance profiles that are going to be tailored to each of the ASEAN member states, including Timor-Leste, in being able to work towards capturing the local context, the policy needs, and the investment opportunities required to help each of the member states to develop the full strategies. Second, this initiative will also help to lay the groundwork for attracting sustainable finance, including nature-based solutions, financing, carbon credits, and also blended finance instruments. Now, recognizing the potential of blue economy and how it's going to shape the economic landscape of ASEAN, the ASEAN Blue Innovation Challenge, as you know, that was what the project we started with 2 years ago. We are already working towards trying to see that we can continue on the innovation part to build on that challenge. But this program itself is going to be complementing and bring it to another level. Now, ladies and gentlemen, excellencies, this is not merely an environmental initiative. If anything, it is more economic in nature. In fact, according to World Bank, the global ocean economy today is valued at $1.5 trillion per year and could more than double by the year 2030 with proper substantial practices. And the blue carbon market, though it's nascent today, is emerging as a potential revenue stream for many countries who are investing into proper conservation and restoration. And if we can quantify, if we can certify and valorize the blue carbon, we can in return, of course, ecologically develop a new asset class of resourcing that will provide economic dividends to our economies. Now, such an approach is definitely clearly aligned very nicely with the ASEAN Blue Economy Framework endorsed by our leaders in 2023. This framework advocates for the whole of community and the whole of economy approach for blue economy, and it calls for a robust science policy interfaces, innovation, as well as resource mobilization. Now, part of this resource mobilization is the development of sustainable financing mechanisms that are going to be helping to accelerate the development of the blue economy projects. In this regard, ASEAN has made significant strides with continued development, for example, of the ASEAN Taxonomy for Sustainable Finance. The ASEAN Taxonomy version 4 is set to be published at the end of this year, and this is going to provide, once again, a comprehensive coverage and support for all areas, including the new enabling sectors, because we started with energy sector, but now we are targeting all of the 6 focus areas of sectors. And again, this will incredibly help in securing better quality financing for our region. ASEAN, as you also know, we have also launched in October of last year the version 2 of the ASEAN Transition Finance Guidelines. This again is an important framework to help accelerate the efforts of financial institutions to be able to be more confident in channeling finance to transition companies while incentivizing real economy clients to create better and more ambitious transition pathways. ASEAN is also working with external partners on a study on decarbonization in ASEAN that would deliver an ASEAN carbon market ecosystem roadmap. That itself will further guide ASEAN in developing a fair, orderly, and resilient regional voluntary carbon market, which we badly need. Furthermore, the insurance sector will also commence work on developing reinsurance capacity building for green financing, which again is critical in being able to secure better quality financing for green projects, including for the blue economy projects. In addition to these frameworks, ASEAN continues to lead the development of green finance in order to further support sustainable growth and to meet the growing investors' interest in green investments. Now, as of the end of December of last year, I'm glad to share that the total issuance of the sustainability-linked bond standards today total almost close to about $55 billion US. Furthermore, ASEAN is also in the midst of developing our ASEAN Blue Economy implementation plan. Now, we already have done the framework in 2 years ago, but now we are actually aggressively trying to secure the full implementation plan that will really help us to help the member states to be able to achieve on the targets for blue economy. Now, here we are going to be targeting on looking at both the blue conservation management. We'll also be targeting at the blue science in the area of technology and innovation, as well as the priority sectors that need to be further developed, and these include anything from energy, transport, fisheries, even tourism. Now, ASEAN is aiming to have this implementation plan document to be endorsed by the end of 2025, and I'm glad to hear that Australia is going to be coming in to help us in developing this implementation plan. In closing, let me just say that the rivers, the oceans, the water resources are really central to our ASEAN identity, to our economy and our future. And the ABCFP initiative that we all hear really offers us a meaningful opportunity to realign our development paths, one that values ecological integrity, meanwhile also supporting climate resilience, but more importantly, empowering our local communities and also growing our economies. Let us work together to turn ambition into action, and may our discussions today and the work in the next 12 months will inspire some impactful change that strengthens the ASEAN resilience and sustainability for the generations to come. Once again, thank you all for your participation today. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Excellency, for the insightful remarks. Next, we will welcome His Excellency Mr. Kiya Masahiko, Ambassador of Japan to ASEAN, to deliver his remarks. To Mr. Kiya Masahiko, you may have the floor.
Good morning. His Excellency Dr. Satwinder Singh, the DSG for ASEAN Economic Community, and Nori-san, Permanent Representative of UNDP Indonesia, also in charge of ASEAN, and my fellow ambassadors from ASEAN member states and partner countries, and distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. And also, I'd like to recognize the participation of the Dato Valduvan Velu, Chair of ASEAN Coordinating Task Force on Blue Economy from Malaysia. It is my great pleasure to be invited to be here to attend this launch event for this ASEAN Blue Carbon and Finance Profiling Project. And I'd like to extend my deep gratitude to each and every one of you for taking part in this event, for taking precious time, despite the busy schedule, to join us today. So your presence underscores our shared commitment to tackling one of the most pressing challenges of our time, which is climate change, through a blue economy. Well, addressing climate change requires urgent and collaborative action. Our initiative today, focusing on blue carbon and blue finance, is a crucial step towards sustainable environmental and economic practices. Japan is honored to support this important initiative in collaboration with ASEAN and also UNDP. So what is this blue carbon and blue finance? I think the following speaker will explain in detail the contents of this project, but simply put, blue carbon ecosystems such as mangroves, seagrasses, and salt marshes play a vital role as carbon sinks, helping mitigate climate impacts. So their preservation is key to maintaining ecological balance and biodiversity. And blue finance offers innovative financial solutions to support these ecosystems and promote sustainable economic growth. The ASEAN region, with its rich marine resources and vibrant coastal communities, is well positioned to lead in this area. So this project reflects our joint commitment to climate resilience, ecosystem protection, and regional collaboration. So together, through strategic collaboration and partnerships, we can establish a regional framework to measure blue carbon and provide blue finance for concrete climate action and sustainable growth. So this is one of the continuation of the projects that followed the ASEAN's blue economy framework now being implemented. Last year, as you may know, ASEAN, UNDP, with Japan, launched the ASEAN Blue Economy Innovation Project, which brought about, after all, 60 innovative startups and organizations across ASEAN and also Timor-Leste. So these groups excel in promoting sustainable fisheries, expanding blue tourism, combating plastic pollution, and addressing climate change. So their network is linked to other stakeholders, including those in Japan, and they are now being invited to Osaka Expo later this year, and I think they are showcasing their activities. So I think this is a continuation of Japan's support for ASEAN-led Blue Economy initiative. And I took note of a series of initiatives that this has been seen, explained in detail, and Japan is quite honored to support concrete carbon, zero carbon emission, and the blue economy projects. In particular, in the field of decarbonization, Japan supported just last year the establishment of the Asia Zero Emission Center in Area, Economic Research and Institute for ASEAN and East Asia. So this center is dedicated to achieving energy transition, economic growth, and energy security in one goal. So the initiative aligns with the shared goal of achieving decarbonization on the one hand and promoting economic growth on the other. So demonstrating the potential of synergy between environmental initiatives and economic development. And this, it was exemplified by recent visit of the big delegation led by former Prime Minister Kishida, who came to ASEAN Secretariat to meet His Excellency Dr. Kao Kim Hon, and also met, called on the President Prabowo in Indonesia, and also in Malaysia, called on Anwar Ibrahim, Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim of Malaysia, and they had a very good discussion so that we'll have a good third summit meeting on ASEC in Malaysia later this year. So this blue carbon and blue finance initiative is strongly linked to Japan's ASEC initiative, which is supporting, for example, ASEAN Power Grid and also ASEAN Center for Climate Change, led by Brunei. So lastly, let me just highlight another contribution of Japan for today's event. I'd like to introduce Mr. Ito Fumio, Director of Decarbonized Society Promotion Office in Japan from the Ministry of Environment. He's going to share as panelist Japan's experience and insights regarding the nationally determined contributions and disease and global warming circumstances. So we look forward to his contributions, which will undoubtedly enrich our discussions and provide us with a deep understanding of effective climate strategies. So Japan's experience will be shared with ASEAN member states and beyond. So ASEAN-Japan cooperation just embarked 2 years ago. After the 50 years, another era started, and Japan is determined to continue encouraging ASEAN's further success in this new frontier of blue carbon and blue finance. I look forward to working with you all, not only ASEAN member states and Timor-Leste, but also other partners. Very glad that this climate change and decarbonization is a joint goal, and we look forward to supporting ASEAN to take the lead and in this broader framework of, say, AOIP, ASEAN Outlook on the Pacific. We would like to contribute to ASEAN's successful endeavor to promote economic growth with decarbonization. Thank you very much for your attention, and we look forward to the upcoming sessions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Your Excellency, for the inspiring remarks. And last but not least, please join me to welcome Mr. Norimasa Shimomura, the resident representative of UNDP Indonesia, to deliver his perspective on this project. Mr. Norimasa Shimomura, the floor is yours.
His Excellency Mr. Satvingasin, Deputy Secretary General of ASEAN for ASEAN Economic Community, His Excellency Mr. Kiya Masahiko, Ambassador of Japan to ASEAN, and Dato Valuvan Velo, Chair of the ASEAN Coordinating Task Force on Blue Economy, joining online, and also ambassadors from ASEAN member states and the dialogue partners, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. It is my honor to welcome you at the launch of ASEAN Blue Carbon and Blue Finance Profiling Project, covering all 10 ASEAN countries and Timor-Leste. Today, we start with the premises that we have a common understanding that coastal and freshwater ecosystems are powerful and yet underutilized allies in our fight against the climate change. Seagrasses, for example, can sequester carbons up to 35 times faster than tropical rainforests. Peatlands store twice as much carbon as all forests combined. Remarkably, and as the DSG also mentioned, ASEAN is home to a third of world's seagrass beds and nearly 40% of known tropical peatlands. This gives the region tremendous potential to reduce emissions while enjoying the economic benefits from sustained fisheries and coastal livelihoods as a result of protecting coastal and freshwater habitat. However, these ecosystems face growing threats. Degraded seagrass meadows release emissions equivalent to 3% of global deforestation, and degraded peatland account for 4% of global human-induced emissions. Despite their values, restoration efforts are hindered by the persistent financing gap. To close this financing gap, we must look beyond the traditional funding models and embrace innovative climate financing. This is why the project that we are launching today is both timely and transformational. With the generous support of the government of Japan and with strong endorsement from the ASEAN Coordinating Task Force on Blue Economy, UNDP will work with its partners on the following priorities in the next year. First, we will develop blue carbon profile to unveil the scale of blue carbon potentials in the ASEAN region using the best available science, satellite technology, and field assessments. Secondly, we will produce blue finance profiles to help ASEAN countries unlock sustainable finance to promote conservation and benefit from the carbon potentials. This includes examining the relevance of various instruments and approaches such as blue bonds, coral insurance, blended finance schemes, and public-private partnerships. Thirdly, we will also establish a regional network of experts to strengthen cross-country collaboration and work towards long-term capacity building while ensuring women's participation. This project builds on the success of the ASEAN Blue Economy Innovation Project, also funded by the government of Japan and implemented by UNDP over the past year. The Blue Innovation Project attracted more than 1,300 applications and supported 60 ventures from all ASEAN countries and Timor-Leste, which by March this year collectively secured 37 business agreements. These achievements underscore the region's readiness to move from innovation to implementation and the importance of targeted financing and cross-sectoral collaboration. Together, these two projects reflect our integrated approach, linking policy, science, innovation, and finance to support ASEAN's leadership in implementing its blue economy framework, while also advancing UNDP's Global Ocean Promise and our broader commitment to attain the objectives of Sustainable Development Goals. Through this project, we are proud to work with 22 national experts and more than 50 academic and research institutions across the region, such as Gajah Mada University and area, or the Economic Research Institute for ASEAN and East Asia, as well as with the ASEAN Dialogue partners, including Japan. These partnerships are essential to ensure that the solutions we promote are not only innovative, but also scalable and owned by the region. We also look forward to showcasing ASEAN's blue economy progress on the global stage, as Ambassador Kia mentioned, including at the Osaka's World Expo in Japan later this year. In closing, I wish to thank the ASEAN member states and ASEAN Secretariat for their effective guidance and coordination, and of course to the government of Japan for its trust and partnership. So let us continue to work together for a future where our waters are protected, communities are empowered, and blue economy thrives. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Norin Masashi Momura, for the insights. As I mentioned earlier, the project strongly supports the sustainable use of ocean and inland water resources for economic growth across ASEAN and Timor-Leste. It also highlights the importance of responsible and long-term management of these resources to ensure their continued availability for our future generations. This work requires strong regional collaboration and leadership. With that, It is my honor to invite Yang Berbahagia Dato' Technologist V. Valavan Velu, Chair of the ASEAN Coordinating Task Force of Blue Economy, who will deliver his insightful perspective on this project via recorded video. Distinguished participants, let's watch the message from Yang Berbahagia Dato' Technologist V. Valavan Velu.
His Excellency Kiya Mashiko, Ambassador of Japan to ASEAN, His Excellency Satvinder Singh, Deputy Secretary General of ASEAN for ASEAN Economic Community, Mr. Norimasa Shimomura, Resident Representative of the United Nations Development Programme, UNDP Indonesia, Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. It is my honor to be here today virtually at the launching event of the ASEAN Blue Carbon and Finance Profiling ABCF project, an initiative that places blue ecosystems at the center of ASEAN sustainability and climate resilience agenda. As a region home to over 35% of the world's mangroves and seagrass beds, ASEAN holds enormous potential to lead in the blue carbon innovation. These ecosystems can sequester a carbon up to 35 times faster than tropical forests, yet they remain undervalued in our climate financing strategies. The ASEAN Blue Carbon and Financing Profiling, or ABCF project, implemented with the support from UNDP Indonesia and the government of Japan, it is a timely response to bridge the gap between data and financing. ABCF will deliver two primary tools. Firstly, the blue carbon profiles, which will provide scientific data and methodologies to measure carbon stocks in mangroves, seagrass, and peatlands. Secondly, the blue finance profiles that will assess financing gaps, regulatory frameworks, and investment opportunities to mobilize public and private capitals. Most importantly, these two primary tools will support the development of nationally determined contributions, NDC, and lay the groundwork for regional carbon markets, particularly by exploring innovative financing such as blue bonds, blended finance, as well as public-private partnerships. Indonesia's recent issuance of sovereign blue bond, which raised 149 million USD, is a clear signal of what's possible when ambition meets investment. The ABCF's inclusive design, namely engaging various academic institutions and promoting women participation, ensures that its benefits extend to communities, particularly those who are most dependent on the coastal ecosystems. This project is also a concrete step forward under the ASEAN Blue Economic Framework, and we look forward towards seeing its findings integrated into the ASEAN Blue Economic Implementation Plan. As the current chair of the ASEAN Coordinating Task Force on the Blue Economic ACTFBE, Malaysia strongly believes that the ABCF project embodies the spirit of regional cooperation. Additionally, the ABCF project provides a common platform for ASEAN member states to collectively enhance our knowledge base, harmonize carbon accounting methods, and unlock innovative financing solutions tailored to our shared blue economic ambitions. The ABCF project contributes directly to the implementation of the ASEAN Blue Economic Framework by generating data and financing strategies that ASEAN member states can use to strengthen their blue carbon and blue economic initiative. By offering a shared technical foundation, the project also facilitates regional coordination while allowing each country the flexibility to apply the findings in ways that align with its national priorities and development context. Malaysia reaffirms its support for ACTFBE and ASEAN's regional cooperation on this important work. Let us continue to protect our coast, empower our people, and mobilize our finance for a more resilient and sustainable blue future. With that, I thank you everybody and have a happy conference.
Thank you, Dr. Technologist V. Valavan Velu, for sharing your thoughts. Before we proceed to the next session, I would like to invite His Excellency Mr. Satvinder Singh, His Excellency Ambassador Kiya Masahiko, and Mr. Nori Masashi Momura to come up to the stage for a quick photo session. I would also like to invite to the stage Ambassador Gerard Ho, Ambassador Heng Serith, Ambassador Ong Myo Min, Miss Maria Elena Cristina Maningat, and Mr. Cristonio to join the photo session. On my cue, cameraman ready. 1, 2, 3. Another photo. 1, 2, 3. All right, Your Excellencies, please stay on the stage as we would also like to invite Ambassador Tiffany Ann McDonald, Ambassador Sujiro Sim, Ambassador Rui Suboyama, and Ambassador Enrique Ferraro to join the photo session. On my cue, camera ready. 1, 2, 3. Okay. One more time. 1, 2, 3. Last one, just to make sure. 1, 2, 3. All right. Thank you, Excellencies. You may return to your seat. Our next session will focus on the ASEAN Blue Carbon and Finance Profiling Project. We are honored to have Dr. Areta Aprilia, Team Leader for Nature, Climate and Energy of UNDP Indonesia, who will give an introduction to the project. Dr. Areta Aprilia, the floor is yours.
Good morning, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Areta Aprilia. I'm the head of Nature, Climate and Energy Unit at UNDP Indonesia. It is with a great pleasure for me to be here today with you to introduce a very exciting collaboration between ASEAN, Japan, and UNDP on the project titled Amplifying Blue Economy Growth Through Enhanced Blue Carbon and Financing. With the generous support from the government of Japan, this initiative is being implemented by UNDP Indonesia through March 2026 under the guidance of the ASEAN Coordinating Task Force on Blue Economy. This project reflects shared commitment to advancing climate action, marine conservation, and sustainable economic growth across the region, which are anchored in the immense potential of carbon ecosystems. As Nori-san mentioned earlier, that this project consists of two main components. One is blue carbon, and the other one is blue finance. So before we dive into the project details, let me briefly explain what we mean by blue carbon in this context. In this project, blue carbon refers specifically to the carbon that is stored in seagrass meadows and peatland forests. So why have we chosen to focus on these two ecosystems? It is because these are the remarkable untapped environmental and socio-economic benefits that made it both seagrass meadows and also peatlands gaining traction in the international climate discussions. So firstly, let us start with the seagrass meadows. Seagrass remains an untapped carbon sink that is compared to mangroves, but this project sees it as an opportunity for innovation and value creation to help ASEAN unlock its full potential. As Nori-san mentioned earlier, compared to other coastal and marine ecosystems like mangroves or tidal salt marshes, seagrass meadows are considered the most efficient natural carbon sinks, which are capable of capturing up to 35 times more organic carbons than terrestrial forest soils. And beyond sequestration, seagrass meadows provide a wide range of critical ecological functions, such as to support marine biodiversity and also habitat for seahorses, tiger sharks, green sea turtles, dugongs, and also manatees. They also help promote sustainable coastal and marine tourism, including recreational activities and also water sports that we enjoy. Now, ladies and gentlemen, let's move to peatlands. These are the type of wetlands ecosystem that store twice as much carbon as all of the world's forests combined. So that's quite substantial. But their value goes far beyond carbon storage. Healthy peatlands also support sustainable agriculture, reduce flood risks, enhance soil fertility, and enhance local livelihoods by providing natural resources like medicinal plants and materials for traditional crafts. The focus on grass and peatlands is especially relevant for ASEAN, which is uniquely positioned to lead in the global agenda. Ladies and gentlemen, the region is home to 33% of the world's seagrass beds and nearly 40% of all known tropical peatlands. So this rich natural endowment offers a powerful opportunity for ASEAN to drive meaningful climate action and position itself as a global leader in the blue carbon ecosystem. This approach also directly supports ASEAN's climate ambitions, including the targets to achieve net zero CO2 emissions by 2050 and the net zero greenhouse gas emissions by 2065. And by recognizing and integrating the contributions of these ecosystems into the national and regional climate strategies, ASEAN countries can unlock significant economic values and simultaneously advancing climate resilience to bring sustainable livelihoods to life through enhancing green and blue investment across the region. These efforts will make ASEAN position as a global leader. And ladies and gentlemen, despite their tremendous seagrass and peatlands ecosystems are under serious threat. Seagrass meadows, as you can see here, are among the most threatened ecosystems on the planet. Disturbances to these ecosystems could release up to 0.15 petagrams of CO2 annually, which is equivalent to 3% of global emissions from deforestation. And similarly, around 12% of global peatlands have been drained or degraded, contributing to 4% of annual emissions worldwide. And in parallel, efforts to protect and restore these ecosystems are severely constrained by significant funding gaps. Many developing countries remain heavily dependent on international grants, limiting the scalability and innovation of blue carbon projects. And so this brings us to the second component of this initiative, which is blue finance. Now, blue finance seeks to diversify the sources for blue carbon conservation and restoration by using innovative financial instruments such as results-based payment and blue bond, which are beyond traditional donor-based models. However, the potential of blue finance remains largely untapped due to several key barriers, including, for instance, limited understanding of blue carbon finance mechanisms, the absence of clear investment models and categorization, low investors' capacity and familiarity with emerging instruments, and so forth. So now, ladies and gentlemen, with the generous support of the government of Japan and the strong endorsement from the ASEAN Coordinating Task Force on Blue Economy, UNDP, together with our institutional partners and 22 national experts from 11 countries, are embarking on an ambitious journey over the next year. We will work hand in hand to develop blue carbon profiles, drawing on the best available science, satellite technology, and field-based assessments. We will also produce the blue finance profiles to help the countries to unlock the much-needed sustainable finance, whether through blue bonds, blended finance, or innovative public-private partnerships. And just as important, we will build a regional network of experts, ensuring that women are also actively involved. And this will foster the cross-country collaboration and strengthen the long-term capacity across the region. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the project timeline from Q2 to 2025 to Q1 2026. So during Q2 to Q3 2025, the focus will be on development of blue profiles and technical training on blue carbon and ecosystem services. And then in Q4 to Q1 of 2026, we will advance to producing the reserve blue profiles, building on the initial assessments conducted earlier in the year. And by March 2026, this project aims to deliver impactful results. We will have developed 11 national blue carbon profiles and 11 national blue finance profiles, one for each participating countries. So in addition, we will consolidated ASEAN Blue Carbon Profile and ASEAN Blue Finance Profile to support regional collaboration. The project will also establish a robust regional network engaging over 50 academic and research institutions and more than 60 experts working on blue carbon and blue finance. These collaborative efforts will inform a set of policy recommendations to unlock blue investments and also accelerate sustainable development across the region. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to end by saying that protecting and leveraging seagrass and peatlands is not just about an environmental imperative, but it is a strategic economic and climate opportunities for ASEAN. By advancing blue carbon and blue finance together, we are not only investing in ecosystems, we are investing in resilience, equity, and sustainable growth in our region. As Jacques Cousteau once said, the sea, once it casts its spell, holds one in its net, its wonder forever. So that wonder, paired with science, solidarity, and shared purpose, is what brings us all together. Let us move boldly and together to build lasting knowledge systems, unlock innovative finance, and elevate ASEAN's leadership in nature-based climate solutions. And so I will leave you with this poem. From coastal roots, from ASEAN stands with a common plan, which Japan support, wise and strong, and UNDP is to support all along. For climate, for people, for every shore, together we rise, and we'll do so much more. Thank you so much for being in this journey together with us.
Thank you, Dr. Arita Aprilia. Also very strong and beautiful closing. With previous presentation from Dr. Arita Aprilia, I believe we now have a clearer understanding of the project's goals and significance. We will proceed to our panel discussion titled Leveraging Blue Carbon and Accelerating Blue Finance for Strengthened Climate Action and Sustainable Growth in ASEAN. To lead this conversation, I am pleased to invite Ms. Nila Murthy, Team Leader for Financing for Development of UNDP Indonesia, to moderate the session. Ms. Nila, the floor is yours.
Good morning, Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome and thank you so much for joining our session today. My name is Nila Murthy. I am the team leader for Financing for Development Unit in UNDP Indonesia. So financing has been critical for sustainable development goals. That's why in UNDP Indonesia, we've been working collaboratively with governments, with donors, private sectors, and other stakeholders to mobilize more capitals toward SDGs through the deployment of innovative financing instruments such as thematic bond, including blue bond, impact investing, faith-based finance, catalytic funding, and also de-risking mechanism. Up to now, in UNDP Indonesia has been supporting mobilization around more than 11 billion US dollar toward SDGs, including to the blue sectors. So we've been briefed with the project objective. We also understand on how the importance of the blue sector is, and how the important also to mobilize financing towards these sectors. So without further ado, let me invite our distinguished panelists today. And panelists, please join me on the stage when I introduce you. Our first panelist is Ms. Latifah Haida Abdul Latif, Head of Analysis and Monitoring on Finance and Socioeconomic Issues Division, ASEAN Secretariat. Ms. Latifah, please join us. May I ask for a round of applause for Ms. Latifah, please? Our second finalist will be Mr. Ito Fumio, Director of Decarbonized Society Promotion Office, Global Environment Bureau, Ministry of the Environment Government of Japan. Our third panelist is Mr. Win Sim Tam, Regional Representative Asia and the Pacific, FERA. Fourth panelist would be Dr. Venkata Chalam Anbumozi, Senior Research Fellow for Innovation Economic Research Institute for ASEAN and East Asia area. Last but not least, Dr. Erlis Saputra, Vice Dean of Education, Teaching, and Student Affairs, Universitas Gadjah Mada. So, let me ask to give a round of applause again for our panelists here. Thank you, Bapak and Ibu. Thank you, and also, for being here and to share your experience later on and your insights to our just launched project on the ASEAN Blue Carbon and Finance Profiling. So now I would like to invite each of the panelists to give a short of presentation. So each panelist will be give 3 until 5 minutes time to present the topic. And then after the round of presentations, we will go for Q&A session. So as a start, I would like to invite Ms. Latifah, who leads the ASEAN Secretariat Division that monitors and analyzes the financial flows and socioeconomic threats in ASEAN member states and lead regional level policy making. She will discuss about ASEAN's policies and strategies on achieving nationally determined contributions, NDCs, and how climate finance could accelerate member states' climate goals. Over to you, Ms. Latifah.
Thank you very much, and good morning, everyone. So I have just 4 slides, and I will walk you through all the 4 slides, and I try to be as brief as I can for the next 3 to 5 minutes. And I think what I'm trying to show here is the intersection between climate finance and how it helps support economic growth, especially at the regional level perspective, and to share what ASEAN has done so far. Maybe just, hang on, let me see. Okay, I'll skip this slide. This slide basically just to show why it is important for ASEAN to look into addressing climate change and why is it significant. I think the impact of climate change on ASEAN is clear. We can see that it affects GDP growth. We can see that by end of the century, it is expected that if we don't do anything, if we remain business as usual, 11% of ASEAN's GDP will be lost by 2010, by the end of the century. And not just the economic loss that we will be facing, but also the environmental impact and human losses as well, given that a lot of ASEAN's population lives within the coastal areas, and 5 out of 20 ASEAN economies are vulnerable to the impact of climate change. So this is just framing that perspective, and just also to highlight, or for some who may not be familiar with ASEAN, there are 2 tracks that's working in parallel when we're talking about climate change or addressing climate change. One is the socio-cultural pillar that looks into addressing climate change or climate impact from the perspective, from the environmental lens. At the intersection of environment and economics, this is where the ASEAN economic pillar comes into play. And we do have, under the ASEAN economic pillar, there are 3 policy documents that specifically look into creating structured pathway for decarbonization. So these are the ASEAN Strategy for Carbon Neutrality, Circular Economy Framework for the ASEAN Economy Framework for Circular Economy for the ASEAN Economic Community, as well as the ASEAN Blue Economy Framework, which is the focus of the discussion today. Let me go to the next slide. Okay, so why we're looking at the need to address climate change, right? So basically, there are win-win situations, and we're looking at carbon neutrality or decarbonization. There are win-win outcomes that can be achieved, and if you look at the intersection, it's quite clear. Creating a credible path to carbon neutrality basically will attract investment from major global blocs and support job creation in ASEAN. A modeling that we did in looking into or developing the ASEAN Strategy for Carbon Neutrality has shown that a transition towards carbon neutrality or investment in carbon neutrality could raise GDP value, or could add ASEAN GDP value up to $5.3 trillion by 2050. It also creates up to 66 million new jobs for ASEAN citizens, as well as attract up to 6.7 trillion green investment into the region. So these are the economic incentives, so to speak. Why do we need to move ahead, and why do we need to make the transition and decarbonize our economy? And if we look, and the modeling that we did also look into a slightly more granular assessment, and found that at the national level, for each of the ASEAN member states, everybody will actually have a piece of the cake, so to speak. For the CLMV countries like Cambodia, Laos, Myanmar, and Vietnam, the GDP uplift that they will experience is between 9 to 12% additional GDP through investment in decarbonization. For middle-income ASEAN member states, the GDP uplift will be between 4 to 7. And for the high-income ASEAN member states, it will be 1% to 2%. So everybody will actually have a new emerging economic growth that they can tap on, and will be able to experience GDP uplift. And one of the things that we found out, so we know we have established that yes, the transition is good. We need to be able to address climate crisis, and we need to be able to support the economic sector to make that transition. However, one of the challenges that we have encountered over and over again is the access to financing. And I think this is also the key topic that we're talking about today. It's not about availability of funds, but it's about the accessibility of funds. If you look at the slides that we have on the screen, so this is basically the regional initiatives that ASEAN has under the ASEAN Strategy for Carbon Neutrality to mobilize green financing. There are several initiatives that has been undertaken, and just to highlight that, so for the ASEAN Strategy for Carbon Neutrality, we do have 16 initiatives, and out of the 16 initiatives, 6 of it were designed to actually mobilize green funds into the region. So this includes development of a regional MRV framework to enable high-quality carbon credits, develop consolidated database for GHG, regional GHG inventory, consistent and uniform adoption of ASEAN taxonomy of sustainable finance, and to promote innovative finance instruments. I also wish to highlight that if you look at the right-hand side of the screen, these are among the initiatives that currently has been undertaken to support green financing or to mobilize green financing. And these are the areas that currently being done by the economic sector. The taxonomy for sustainable finance, which is currently in its 4th iteration and its final version, has already have 3 use case, which means that we have already have feedback from the private sector how useful it is, how it is being used, and now it's being expanded to comprehensively also cover water management in the 4th iteration, and also aquaculture as well. ASEAN Sustainable Bond Standards have also seen a lot of green bonds being issued attached to these standards. And in addition to that, we also wanted to highlight that despite all this initiative that we are doing, there's still persistent gap when it comes to financing. So the amount of climate finance needed by the region actually is estimated to be about 422 billion by 2030. While we have seen increase in terms of green financing flows into the region, there's about 20% increase in 2023 that we saw. The green investment that came in primarily for mitigation projects and not adaptation projects. So again, like I said, there's a lot of, there's still persistent issues, persistent gap in terms of financing. And I wanted to highlight, apart from the economic sector initiatives, our colleagues in the environmental sector have also looked into mobilizing green financing, and there are several documents and guidelines or guidance that has been also issued. The technical assessment of climate finance, the guidebook on how to access climate finance, as well as climate finance mobilization strategy that has also been that are currently in place. You'll be able to look at all these documents can be downloaded in from our websites. So even this year, there's another scoping project being done by the environment sector to look into mobilizing financing for a lot of these, particularly adaptation projects. So these are the things that currently being undertaken. But I think before my time runs out, a few things that I wanted to highlight. Despite all these efforts to mobilize or bring together and unlock funding for sustainability project, a lot of these projects within this region or in ASEAN are still categorized as underperforming and also not really bankable. And why is that so? There are 3 key factors that we could say or we have observed with regards to this. The first one is lack of uniformity or harmonization of policy and standards. This basically creates unnecessary bureaucratic hurdles, and mandatory emission reporting and standardized methodology requires valuable data pool for investors. So this is one of the hurdles that we have noticed that is quite persistent. The second hurdle is the political instability, lack of transparency in governance, currency exchange rate volatility, as well as robustness of project pipeline has also been one of the areas that hinders investors for projects within this region. And finally, the key factors that we observe is the infrastructure readiness that is currently lacking within this region. So these are among the things that we have observed in all the initiatives that we have put in place so far. And before, before I end, I'm about like 10 seconds away. I just want to emphasize that ASEAN has always been a preferred investment destination, and having a coherent policy as well as innovative financing mechanism would be able to unlock this potential and actually mobilize investment within this region. And these are the three things that I think we need to tackle and we need to address in order to be able to bring forward and advance the decarbonization agenda for ASEAN. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Latifa, for highlighting, the ASEAN approaches and also the challenges in ASEAN in really mobilizing private investment into the blue economy. So for the second speakers, I would like to invite Mr. Ito from Ministry of the Environment Government of Japan, who leads the Carbonized Society Promotion Office, Global Environment Bureau. He is leading policies formulations related to NDCs, including greenhouse gas emission reduction targets, and oversees efforts to measure carbon sinks, such as blue carbon. So Japan implemented numerous blue carbon projects through the government-managed J-credit scheme. Ito-san will share with us the Japanese government's effort to accelerate blue carbon in the country. Over to you, Ito-san.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. I'm Ito from Ministry of Environment, Japan. It's a great honor to be here. Just quick, I would like to present here talking about the Japanese experience, especially from the policy point of view. So this first slide shows, as everyone knows, blue carbon. When we talk about blue carbon, it has multi-benefits, and therefore we need very good communication with many different stakeholders. But now, Japanese government, especially Minister of Environment, is focusing on climate change mitigation aspect. I highlighted here with red color. So carbon sequestration or carbon cycle. And so we try to introduce policy in Japan. It's linked to this kind of mitigation policy. So when looking at the IEA net zero roadmap, it implies we need around 15% of CCUS, carbon capture, usage, and storage. So maybe not only Japan, but also each country may need to have some kinds of CCUS to reach net zero. So back to Japan's case. This is Japanese GHG inventories, and blue bar shows annual emissions, and green bar shows renewables. And emissions minus renewables is showing here with black dot and black line. And fortunately, it goes to net zero at this moment, very good. But I have to say, we use renewables. And at this moment, 90% is made by forest management. And it's not enough. So that's why we try to find another or other renewable resource, such as blue carbon. So what we have done here, February in this year, we set new NDCs, and we include blue carbon. So we have the target of blue carbon and 1 million tons in 2035 and 2 million tons in 2040. And we have the plan for global warming countermeasures and mentions about the sequestration by using the seaweed and also seagrasses. And maybe it's difficult to see, but why I present about this kind of policy instrument here is it's not just for Japan. We are now talking about global emission reduction. Maybe you can see at the right bottom side. So we have, JCM systems and, ASEAN community. So nowadays, especially high emission countries or let's say developed countries, it's very difficult to cut CO2 emissions inside of our countries. So we try to find the cooperation between other countries like ASEAN countries. So if we can share the knowledge and introduce some sort of similar policy tools such as NDCs or inventories and include blue carbon in it, I think not only finance, but also technologies and players like Japanese companies maybe come to the Asian countries and try to reduce the CO2 emissions, not only inside, but also outside and cooperate together. So this is what I would like to say here. And Japan is ready to contribute such kinds of introduction. We have lots of training program talking about how we can establish NDCs and also inventories. So the key is how to monitor, how to evaluate, and how to verify it. So, and together with UNDP and AREA and Japanese government, Ministry of Environment, together with Ministry of Foreign Affairs and other ministries and agencies, we would like to cooperate. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Ito-san. Thank you for sharing the Japanese experience, the Japan experience in the policy of this effort on the blue carbon, and also opening on the opportunity, I believe, on the experience exchange and also establish and training as well, right? So the next speaker would be Mr. Win, the regional representative for Asia and the Pacific at FERA. FERA is a leading non-profit organization that develops and manages global standards for certifying environmental and social impact projects, including the widely recognized Verified Carbon Standards, or VCS. Through the VCS, FERA has pioneered methodologies of blue carbon projects, facilitating the conservation and restoration of coastal ecosystems such as mangroves, seagrass, and salt marshes. Mr. Win will discuss FERA's role in shaping the blue carbon market, drawing on the field experience to illustrate how this initiative can unlock opportunities for diverse financing instruments and support the broader climate finance landscape. Over to you, Mr. Win.
Thank you very much for the introductions, moderators. Given the time that we have today, I will be quick. Vera, as introduced by our moderator today, we have three roles in the market. So we build the methodologies which can be used to certify projects for the purpose of carbon crediting. And of course, that certifications is conducted through the programs and the rules and requirements set up by Vera. So that's the second role that we play. We manage those programs to certify projects. And finally, we work with governments, NGOs, businesses, civil societies to advance the use of these programs. Right. So in this slide, I just want to point out that once a project is registered, and especially in this case, a nature-based projects, the minimum periods of which the projects can issue carbon credits is 20 years for a nature-based projects. And that goes up to 100 years. So we're talking about a long-term financing here through carbon market, through carbon credits. I'm going to skip that. This is the slide that I want to focus on. This is the area where Vera is working on or has worked on. And you can see that for blue and oceans carbon innovations, there are three categories. The first one is, of course, peatlands. And in this region, tropical peatlands. And for tropical peatlands, you have two pathways in essence. Either you are conserving, so you're preventing those peatlands from getting deforested or destroyed. Or, for example, restorations where you revert, drain peatlands. So that's pillar number one there, tropical peatlands. Second one, of course, is coastal wetlands in the form of mangroves, tidal marshes, and of course, seagrasses. And again, you also have the two components, either restorations or conservations. Finally, which is the new area, the uncharted water, if you can put it that way, the open oceans, where seaweeds if we look at seaweed farmings, but the tricky part is because the carbon gets sequestered by seaweed is not just in the plants itself. A lot of them go into the seawater in the form of dissolved carbon. And that makes it very tricky to quantify those carbons. And finally, this is more related to fisheries. We're also looking at a potential methodologies called avoided bottom trawling. So you want to have carbon credit to incentivize fishermen to not use bottom trawling, which is destructive to the seabeds. And that will stir up the sediments and create more emissions to the atmosphere. Now, these are some of my standard site with details that I've covered earlier, but here is the second last slide I want to focus on. What are the opportunities in the region currently? There is right now high demand for blue carbon credits and removal. And if I can give you an example, Meta, Microsoft, Salesforce, McKinsey have formed a coalition called Symbiosis Coalitions, and they are committed to purchasing 20 million tons of CO2 equivalents. And they will be opening up a request for proposal soon for blue carbon projects. So watch out for that if you're interested. The second one is, it's not just about carbon. It's about the community, it's about biodiversity. And for blue carbon, which is unique, is the adaptations part of it. We are mitigating the effects from sea level rising, which is unique to blue carbon projects. And you don't see that in terrestrial carbon, forestry carbon project, for example. Of course, the price is higher, but the challenge remains. It's really complex to measure all the different carbon pools and not mentioning the cost to monitor and put boots on your ground. If you have traveled into mangrove or a peatland before, you know that it's really challenging. And finally, I want to end my presentation with this example from Pakistan. Large scale, we're talking about 350,000 hectares over 60 years lifespan. But it's estimated annually can sequester up to 2 million of carbon dioxide reductions. That counts toward the country NDC. At the same time, it offers jobs and uplift poverties. And of course, and last point, it also protect globally threatened species, the habitats of those species. So my call to actions to our stakeholders today is that ASEAN has so much more potential. We have not had these lighthouse projects to showcase, but we should be able to have some soon. This is my call to actions. Let us act today. Stop talking and do. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Win, for the encouraging presentations and also for the call for actions. Thank you also for sharing, the tools and methodology that being used by FERA, and also the information on the potential or the opportunities of blue carbon projects, which later on will be invited for all those interested with collaborating with Meta, right? Let me move to the fourth speaker, Dr. Anbu Mozi, Senior Research Fellow for Innovations at AREA, who already has authored several books and numerous research articles, including those on resource management policies and green growth. He is also going to lead the research on the blue finance profile in this project, aiming to identify effective strategies for mobilizing investment in sustainable ocean-based industries. He will discuss ASEAN's Blue Economy Initiative and the possible financing mechanism. So, Dr. Anbu Mozi, over to you.
Thank you, Burnila, and also good morning, Your Excellencies, distinguished participants. My message, and today this one is, we know that is for the ASEAN, we have plenty of opportunities, and where the blue economy can drive the economic growth. But on the other hand, if you look into this financing landscape, it is very complex. It involves a lot of risk, and we need de-risking mechanisms. That is my emphasis for this point, and I think Ibu Latif mentioned about very different profiles, that is the ASEAN frameworks has been evolved. But if you look into it, uh, the decarbonization roadmap, and this process need basically three elements. One is the sectoral actions. Second thing is the enablers or the mechanisms that link these potentials into the markets that need a stakeholder platform. That is where IRIA has been doing, and last year we established this ASEAN Zero Emission Center that has been mentioned by Ambassador. And here we do a lot of activities and in support of this ASEAN's decarbonization or the achieving the net zero economy. And if you look into this decarbonization, whether it is the blue or green or and also brown, and here we need to look into this is the what is the transition, and from now it is 2025 to 2050, how we are going to achieve it. That need two things. One is the technology. The technology that is available in most of these advanced economies. And second thing is the capital that is available mostly in the private sector. And third is the policy environment. And the policy environment, that is where we are looking into this, the carbon market. So whether it is a blue carbon market or it is a green or the sustainability, that kind of color doesn't matter, but what here is how we can make these markets work for the decarbonization. So IRIA has been supporting and the ASEAN member states in developing this blue economic resources. This is the first exercise that is we done, that is where this is the comparative advantages of the blue economy exist. And except one country, that is the Lao PDR, and we have a maritime connectivity and how that infrastructure development can drive this new economic growth. So this is our estimate made in 2021. It shows that is the shared value for the 6 marine-based sectors in 2025. And here find, if you look into the Indo-Pacific region, more than 50% of the resources, the drives that can drive the growth. One is the marine fishing and aquaculture and fish processing and tourism. And this could be able to drive and the region into a kind of a new economic model. But if you look into it, and this is where I think DSG mentioned, and this is a blue economy framework. I think it has been evolved. The main core or the basic enablers of this pillar is the sustainable financing. And if you look into this hard reality of this transition financing landscape, here you can see that is the 2/3 of the current cash flows are coming from the private sector, and 1/3 is in the public sector. If you zoom in under the private sector, nearly 60% lies in the finance sector, and that has been divided into debt and the equity financing. If you go to the practical level, and IRIA has done a survey and about 2,000 financial institutions. We find these financial institutions, they have the resources, but this resources is not flowing into the projects. They have the 3 domains of the barriers. One is the policies, that is the policies are not stable, but it is a complex. Second is the institutions. We do have high collateral requirements for making the new investments, and the market is not yet ready. And here we find most of the ASEAN countries, more than 50% of these respondents observed all these 3 barriers. So what could be done? And here we also asked what could be the solutions.
Dr. Anbu Mosi, let me remind.
We found that there is a regional cooperation makes a sense, and this regional cooperation could be tied towards removing the risk, basically the removing or reducing the cost of borrowing the capital. That need a kind of a new public and private partnership. The partnership involving the ministries and as well as the market providers and as well as these existing mechanisms. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Anbu Mosi, for sharing, the initiative in the ASEAN on the possible different financing instrument as well as the tools that can be used on this. So The fifth speaker is Dr. Alice Saputra, Vice Dean of Education, Teaching and Student Affairs, Universitas Gadjah Mada, Indonesia. Dr. Alice will discuss on blue carbon assessment and inventory, a scientific approach and lesson learned from recent work. Over to you, Dr. Alice.
Thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning and selamat pagi for all of us, distinguished guests. Thank you for the time for sharing our experience and also research on blue carbon. We are from the Faculty of Geography. We have about 1,500 students, some of them doing the research in blue carbon in coastal ecosystem related to coastal dynamics. The blue carbon is one of the important research groups in our university, as it is a very important and crucial issue also in currently in Indonesia and also in our university. I would like to start by showing that we have a very strong commitment and also leadership in doing research in blue carbon. From 2010, we've been working on more than 50 research and project activities related to blue carbon, which produce more than 120 publication, article and also books, and some of the outputs are also paper in conference, and also some cooperation with network from international bodies and institutions. We'd like to thank our collaborative networks, government organization, and also to foreign university, in also Indonesia University, to make the progress happen, because for university, the publication and also the exposure of the research is very important. So it is also a very crucial moment for us, because for Faculty of Geography, we've been working together with more partners in international institutions. We are also the group of the seagrass Global Data Hub that would like to provide data for everybody, the open data, open source data to be used for all activities. This national seagrass map that we've been working for from 2020 is one of the best practice for us to provide methods and data related to seagrass. It made a kind of like a very important moment when we can met the G20 presidency in Bali. It is kind of a benchmark for us to work together to with international universities also. The national seagrass map made like a very important output. It is the national seagrass map of Indonesia, which is launched in 2025. And also, we see the capacity building is one of the crucial moment, for us to share our experience and also knowledge to build together the research in blue carbon, so that we try to expand our experience and also our influence not only to universities but also to all stakeholders in Indonesia. Besides this, we also one of the collaborators also in Pollinating 2030. We have achieved one of the very nice and also important and crucial stage using the ecosystem-based adaptation model and also measurement. Through the meeting and also workshop, training, and also research together with external collaborators and also researchers, we try to empower people. We try to also bring influence to mangrove ecosystem using zoning the carbon sink in the mangrove ecosystem. And this the activity. I would like to strengthen that. We work together with communities, also with stakeholders. We strongly influence people to have a collaboration. We have many students to be delivered to the field. And let's talk about the impact also. We don't see the research only in gaining academic publications, but we have also to talk about the impact to the people on the ground. So let's go outside this room and talk to the people and also bring impact together to to wealthy of the people.
Dr.
Thank
Erlis,
you.
let me remind. Okay. Is that it? Okay. Thank you so much, Dr. Erlis. I believe all the panelists already share the topic. And then I believe also there has been a lot of burning questions. I would like to have some questions, but let me just invite participants, audience here, if you have any questions to the panelists. And because of the time limitations, we only open for one questions. Please introduce yourself and a short questions. Hopefully directed to all the panelists, Pak.
Thank you. I'm lucky then. A single question. My name is Novi Adi, working at the Ministry of Marine Affairs and Fisheries. So we are a part of the Indonesian team for the project, together with Gajah Mada University, National Agency for Research and Innovations, Ambassadorial University, and also our National Geospatial Agency. So I have questions particularly for Mr. Win. I'm as a ministry, we are familiar with the carbon projects and also the certification agencies. And when it comes to the blue carbon, when it comes to the carbon price, the blue carbon price is often said premium, because it's different from the carbon price from energy sector, for example. It is often said that it has non-carbon co-benefits. For example, socioeconomic benefits and also biodiversity benefits. My question is, are there formal metric indicators for those two, for example, non-carbon benefits? I mean, with these metric indicators that, for example, for carbon parameter, we are familiar with the metric indicator in ton CO2 equivalents. But how about the two other co-benefits? Do we have like the technical metric or indicators for those, for the project, for the blue carbon projects? Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you so much, Pak Noviadi, for the questions. I know that the question is directed to Mr. Win, but later on I will invite all the panelists to also add, some of the view on these questions, on these metrics indicators on non-carbon co-benefits. Over to you.
So the short answer is yes, there are metrics to measure, for example, benefits for biodiversity and communities. So there's these certifications, well, I call it additional certifications that you can pile on top of your, what we call vanilla carbon projects. So this is called CCB, Climate, Communities and Biodiversity Standards. And you can refer to the website on Vera. There's very specific documents that what are the parameters you can measure for. Then that's quite clear, straightforward. On the other hand, you can choose to go down the different path, which is the United Nations SDG. So there's 17 of the SDGs goes there. For example, I think the first one is no poverty. So if you're doing any activities that will improve livelihoods or the incomes for the household, that is something that those indicators you can use and then have it verified by third-party auditors. And then that will cover you and give you that premiums in addition to your carbon projects. I hope that helps.
Okay, thank you so much. And then let me invite Ms. Latifa if you have any input to the questions or maybe last comments before we, close the event. And I will invite all the panelists as well.
I'm not a technical person, so unlike Mr. Tan, I'm probably not sure in terms of the indicators, but what I can share is that in our study for in developing the ASEAN strategy for carbon neutrality, we did a deep dive into the potential of blue carbon for Indonesia. This is, I've shared it with the workshop also yesterday, that indeed our simulation shows that blue carbon, there were 2 projects that we simulated, and these coastal related conservation projects can fetch a premium price up to $50 US dollars, and some of it would be more than $50 US dollars. So indeed, blue carbon has a high potential and can fetch premium price at the carbon market. But the challenge is that, how do you bring it to market actually, this blue carbon?
Thank you, Ms. Latifa. Ito-san, do you have any input or maybe suggestion on this, respond to this, the metrics on indicator for non-carbon benefits of the blue carbon?
So it's not just the credit, right?
Yes.
I think it's, for me, it's a very difficult question because I'm so, doing so much for carbon. But just talking about the credit thing, I mean, in Japan we have J credit and also J blue credit. It's a little bit different because J blue credit contains a lot of values, not only for carbon, but also water qualification, education, whatever. And the price, compares the J credit and J blue credit. The J blue credit, the price is very high, 10 or 20 times high. But the question is how we can use such credit. Now we are constructing the emission trading schemes and talking about which credit we are going to use. So I think it depends on each companies or each government how we can create such kinds of mechanism. From the point of view, policy point of view.
Okay. Thank you so much, Ito-san. Maybe just one last question to you on the the potential of knowledge exchange or training on this, because you mentioned during your presentations that Japan is open for training on this carbon mechanism, blue carbon mechanism particularly. So is there any particular steps or what would be the procedure for that to have this knowledge exchange?
Thank you. Actually, I think we have been, having such kinds of training system program and try to improve the NDCs and inventories. And now we are ready to include blue carbon in the program. So we already started. And so we are ready now, and so please feel free to ask my question for me.
Okay. So, Dr. Anubosi, do you want to add?
I think it is interesting and a very relevant question. And when we are thinking about the market and financing, and it is very important what is the price and how we are going to pay. And when coming to this high integrity market, and there are standards. I think J Credit has established the standard, and Vera has the standard, and JCM has its own standards. And what is the basic thing is they are looking for the additionality and the additional carbon reductions what you can give in. Second thing is the longevity. It is not for the short term, we are looking for the long term. And third one is what are the tangible benefits and the socio-economic benefits. And not only the carbon reduction, but also the other, that is the non-monetized values. And so if you look at all these things, and it is a very complex, and I think achieving all these things, but where we are looking for high integrated carbon markets. But if you look into this carbon markets, again, we have the compliance market and we have the voluntary market. And they speak their own price reflections are very different for each component. And we did a kind of estimation for all the ASEAN countries, for Indonesia to meet these NDC goals, you need a price of 110 US dollars per ton of carbon. It is very, very, very huge, and it has an impact on this if you are putting a price on the carbon. But if you look into that Singapore market exchange, this is a voluntary carbon market, it is about $3 to $4. There is a huge gap between idealism and what is happening. And why this is a disparity, and it is a seller and buyer market. Where there is most of the ASEAN countries are selling it and buyers are outside, and this mismatch exists. And we did a survey, and I wanted to, it is about 500 consumers, that is we asked them how much you are willing to pay for your carbon price. And the result is $5 to $10. This is the maximum, knowing that there is a climate benefit, and people are ready to pay only $5 and $10. So it shows that is we need to do more, and we need to develop performance indicators that reflect the reality, idealism, and the practicality. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Anbumosi. So, Dr. Erlis, if I may have your response on this. Yes.
For research, we talk about the data, and also for the policy, we talk about the proper data. Measuring the data and also measuring the impact, measuring the policy should involve the data and the good data, and also we have to talk about the ecosystem. If you want to measure the carbon, green carbon, blue carbon, whatever, or about the coastal ecosystem, we have to talk about the ecosystem base on everything, in adaptation, in measuring the impacts also. So working together with stakeholders and also using the proper measuring of data is needed now, and also work together with not only the university, policymakers, and also NGO and every stakeholders to bring more impact to the people.
Yes, thank you. I think that will be the conclusions of our panel discussion today. Again, thank you so much, panelists, for your time and also your valuable insights being shared in these important discussions. So with that, I'll again, thank you so much, and have a good day. Thank you.
So how was it? I think we can agree that the discussion was very insightful and very inspiring. Yeah. So a huge thank you to all the speakers and moderator for sharing their expertise. Let's please give another round of applause for our speakers and also our moderator. We hope you found valuable takeaways and new connection that will propel your innovations forward. This actually concludes our engagement session today, and we thank you for joining us. I guess I also figured that we're all hungry, but maybe this time not for knowledge, but also for food, yeah? So please do enjoy the lunch prepared outside and have more exciting conversation with each other. My name is Nabila, and it has been a pleasure being your host today. Enjoy the rest of your days and safe travel bags. Thank you.